Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 714 podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Podcorn. Podcorn is a great company that helps connect podcasters to brands. When it comes to monetizing your podcast, there's nothing like Podcorn. I personally use Podcorn to monetize my podcast, and it's been a great experience. All you got to do is make a free account, browse through the hundreds of sponsors. They have great brands that you could choose from, make a proposal, and create the ad, and you get paid. Podcorn is a marketplace connecting podcasters to amazing podcast sponsorships, such as host-read ads, like I'm doing right now, and much more. Podcorn has been an exciting opportunity for us as it has allowed us to reach out to sponsors and get funding and expand our quality and content of our podcast. With Podcorn, there's no middleman. Podcasters of all sizes can browse and choose opportunities right on the platform, set your own rates, and collaborate with brands directly without any exclusivities. You never give up any rights to your podcast, and Podcorn is here to support you at every step and ensure you're protected and compensated for the work that you do for brands. So, if you want your podcast monetized, Podcorn is the solution for you. It is one of the easiest ways to monetize your podcast, so make sure you get on that. Their payment method is Stripe. It is secure and trusted by brands like Uber and Spotify, so you never had to worry about your payments. So, if you're looking to monetize your podcast, click the link in the description and sign up to Podcorn. It's free. And get started today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 714 podcast. Today, I got a very special guest with me, Professor Marcos Ortega. How are you doing?
Good. How are yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you. First off, thank you for doing the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Not at all.
Yeah. And let's just get right to it. As of right now, there are around 200,000 cases of coronavirus in the U.S. and over 900,000 worldwide, soon to be over 1 million in a few days. The first question I want to ask you is the coronavirus still in the beginning stages?
Yes, because there's so few people infected. Ultimately, we all have to be exposed to it so we become immune to it, and there's less of an impact. Mm-hmm. And because it's a new type of virus that has evolved in a different way, we're at the beginning because everybody literally has to become immune to it. And since it only started a couple months ago, it's making its rounds. The thing is, we just don't want it to happen too fast. So we're at the way beginning of this. It's going to take months, if not over a year, to everybody become exposed to it, try and develop a vaccine, and then start to think about some treatments once people are infected by it.
So, also, do you have an estimate on how long it'll take for the cases to decline?
So this is the thing that's going to happen, right? So they will decline because we're being proactive now. It's taken us a while, but the reason we're doing Zoom is because we're social distancing and we're not interacting with each other and not passing around the virus.
Yeah.
So we're decreasing the amount of load that's going through the system right now, but it's going to have to come back up at some point. So it will go down, it will come back up. How it comes up is dictated by how we interact with each other, how we develop mechanisms to treat the disease, and how we better understand infection. So there's no magic bullet. There's no wand. What has to happen is it will come down just so we can kind of better understand it. That'll give us a little bit of a gap so we can better understand how to treat it. And then once we do have that gap, then we won't have worse outcomes. But it's going to come down, but it's going to go right back up. How much it goes up depends almost on how little we interact with each other and how good our medicine develops over the next few months. Yeah. So it's impossible to tell, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think we've really dealt with anything like this in modern times. So at least in my lifetime and my parents' lifetime, what we're trying to do now that we go.
Mm-hmm. Especially now that it's like worldwide, and you see cases all around the world, and it's hard to treat everyone at it's just overflooding hospitals. Especially in the U.S.
And it started in cities because there's so many more people and they're so on top of each other, not literally but figuratively. So eventually it will get everywhere. Eventually, that's the thing. You can't say it's this type of virus or from there, from that place, because with viruses know no name and they know no people, right? They just said, you're alive, I need you, I'm going to jump on you. I could care less about the impacts because their whole thing in life is to invade a host and replicate. And so they could care less about where they come from, and they're really good at living, and they're really good at spreading. And they could care less who they do that to.
They just duplicate with their hosts.
Yep. They need us. We don't need them, obviously. Yeah. So they cannot live without us, but they evolve to kind of like be in a pause state where they can live without us. Eventually they'll die off on the surface, but they can live long enough where if we, rub something and rub our eyes, there's now, infection. And then once it gets inside, it's like a fire. Once it has a little bit of oxygen, it just goes. And then once it goes, you can't contain it anymore.
And everybody's been talking about the curve, trying to flatten the curve. Can you explain what social distancing is doing to help flatten the curve?
So if I have one person infected in a room of 10 and they're all in the same room, a bedroom, eventually over time, if they don't live that bedroom, they're all going to get it.
Yeah.
And if they all get it and there's only one doctor or one ventilator or one person with knowledgeable, if that person gets sick too, then everybody's in trouble. So eventually, if you're around a person who's infected, you're going to be exposed. And eventually over time, you will become infected. It's just statistical analysis. You can't avoid it. So what we're trying to do is, instead of having everybody in the room infected at one time, is have everybody leave the room, let that one person who's being infected, hopefully get better, let that one doctor that's available treat that person better and understand the disease. So when we do that, then not everybody is sick at one time and we're overwhelming that one doctor and that one system. So by social distancing, it's just taking everybody out of the room, putting them away from each other so that we know we're not passing around the disease over and over and over again. Because if one goes to 3 goes to 30, 30 goes to 300, then that becomes the fire that we can't put out anymore. So social distancing is just trying to limit the number of infections at one time. Because if you have too many infections at one time, we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough ER beds, we don't have enough understanding of the disease at this point to really treat people effectively. That's what you're seeing right now, especially in like Italy, is having to make choices where you don't flatten that curve. Everybody gets sick at once. You're making choices. Who gets to live? And nobody wants to make that choice. So I know nobody likes to be in their house. Sometimes, yes, not all the time.
Yeah, not all.
But what we're trying to do is just make sure that we have, a better grasp on the infection rate so we can extend it over, months and months as opposed to weeks and weeks.
Yeah. Is the coronavirus more contagious than the flu?
So I don't think we really understand that yet. So they're both very contagious. They both can live on surfaces. They both can be passed, directly or indirectly. So I think it seems to be a little bit more virulent than the flu, meaning that maybe it lasts a little bit longer, but that's why we have to study things to understand how sturdy the virus is and how robust it is and how long it can last. But it's not so much that it's more contagious as flu. It's just that it has a stronger impact than the flu. When we get the flu, we don't feel good. We get fever, we got to sleep. We need a lot of fluids. We can't really take things that are really going to make us feel better because we just kind of let our natural immune system, do its, job and get rid of the virus. So what we feel is more cough, exhaustion, things like that. So this has a little bit of different impact, and the danger in this is not the virulence. The danger impact is that it attacks your lungs and the cells inside those lungs, the red blood cells. And those are the things that carry oxygen. And we need oxygen. I mean, we breathe it in, but the thing is, oxygen is what we use to make energy. And it's like, if your computer doesn't have battery, it's done. Yeah. If we don't have oxygen in our red blood cells, we're done. So what's happening is it's not the virulence, it's that it's attacking our lungs. And it's a little bit different than the flu and how it really, makes it a severe problem for people with, respiratory issues like, what do you call it? Asthma.
Asthma.
And people like that. So it's not that it's not that much more virulent. It's just that it has a stronger impact on our lungs and directly on the things that carry oxygen for us.
And what makes this virus unique? By what I mean by that is, why is it the virus that is impacting the world? Like most viruses, they happen. Diseases have always been a part of this world, but why this one impacting so many people?
For that same reason I just told you. So when we get all these, there's not one type of flu. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of types of influenza. And what happens is over time, viruses naturally adapt to all our drugs, all our environment, and they get better and stronger, better and stronger, better and stronger. So what you end up with is hundreds and thousands of different viruses that start from one place. But they all kind of function the same, and they all do those things I talked about, right? Fever, exhaustion. You can die from the flu, but what you die from is that, usually overheat. Usually it's somebody who's older or younger, somebody their immune system can't respond strongly. But this one doesn't produce those same impacts that a natural flu does. This is an RNA virus that's attacking our oxygen stores, and when it's doing that, it seems to be, and we have to do the science to really figure this out, right? This is what we're still understanding anecdotally, meaning like this is what's implied in some of the data, but we have to study it over months to really understand it. What it's attacking is the red blood cells that transport our oxygen. And so the reason it's having a stronger impact is because, we can have a flu and not even know it sometimes because we have a strong immune system.
Yeah.
If you have, an infection that attacks your red blood cells, you'll know it because you can't catch your breath, right? You get real tired. You have all these kind of off-target effects, we call them, from not having oxygen. Mm-hmm. So it's attacking a little bit different, aspect of us. It's producing a larger impact globally. And I think this is one of the first viruses, at least in the modern times, that's really evolved in a different way to attack a different system in us that's really pivotal to what we need to live. So all viruses attack different things. Mm-hmm. But this one, for some reason, has evolved in a different path. And what it does is it's really, compromising our oxygen utilization.
Yeah. Also, you said that sometimes when you get the flu, you might not realize it. With the coronavirus, some people are being asymptomatic, showing no symptoms. So can you explain why that is?
So we all have different immune systems. And what our immune system does is when we get an infection, it has two different ways, right? So we have an immune system that either can prevent the infection by blocking it from entering the cell, the host, or we have immune response that targets an infected cell. Mm-hmm. So what you could have is an immune system that's very strong. And so if you have an antibody that's similar to this virus already in your library of your immune system, you can block the infection already. And so, or you can get a mild infection. Or if you do get an infection, you have a strong immune system, you have a way to already kind of like, you've dealt with an infection like this already, so you can kind of just say, okay, I've seen something like this, I'll just change it subtly, and now I'll get rid of this infection. Mm-hmm. So it all depends, and each one of us has our own different DNA, which means our own different immune system. So it's like a snowflake, we're all different. So some people can get it and just think they're tired, and maybe have a cough, think it's allergies. Mm-hmm. But that's because their immune system is really, streamlined to take care of this type of virus, an RNA virus like this, maybe an exposure previously. And the people that don't is because maybe they're older and younger and their immune system is either, not big because they're young, or as they're older becomes compromised because, everything ages, even the cell. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that those people are going to be more strongly impacted because they have a weaker immune system. And then the people that are in between will feel an impact, but maybe they don't think it's anything serious. Like, I'm a little bit tired, I have a cough, not even a big deal. So what you hear is this wide range of responses, all based on our differences in DNA code and our different immune system. And that means people can be infected and pass it on to other people and not even know it. And that's why you need social distancing, because you could think, I'm fine, but you may not be because you have a really good immune system and you're lucky. But what about your neighbor? What about your aunt? What about your cousin, right? Maybe they don't.
Yeah. And is the coronavirus like an airborne disease, or do you have to like cough? And if you touch your hand and you touch a surface, is that how it spreads?
It can spread by direct contact, meaning if I have the virus, on my hand or, somewhere on my face, and you touch my face, and then you brush your eyes, rub your nose, cough into your hand, what it needs is a natural way into your body. And so it can do it directly through contact, human contact. But what happens in this one, it can live on surfaces as well. So if somebody sneezes on the surface and I come by and just happen to, touch that surface and I rub my eye, there's the entry point.
Yeah.
So this virus can live on surfaces for a while, and that's why it's so virulent, right? There was that case where early on, and I see your poster in the back, Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz, over there touching all the microphones thinking it's funny. Yeah. That's how viruses get inside like that. But it's not funny, if you now pass that on to a bunch of different people. So, I mean, I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to say, I'm not scared. But he doesn't have to be scared because he's young and he's athletic and he's, a world-class athlete. What about the person who's not that? Then you have to worry about the surfaces, and that's why we're so worried about hand sanitizing and sterilization and masks and PEP, because you have to basically block any way for that virus to get inside you.
Mm-hmm. And that's why social distancing is so important, because some young people, like there was a few weeks ago, there was this kid in Florida who just said, we're on spring break, so might as well just have fun. But young people are still vulnerable, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And like, again, it comes down to think to your immune system. You may think you have a great immune system because you're 20, 21, 22, 23, but the virus doesn't care how old you are. It just said it's a battle, right? I mean, I teach biochemistry, and this is how when I teach the immune, I said, okay, it's a battle between the pathogen, in this case, the virus, and then our immune system. And there can only be one winner. And it depends on how strong our immune response is. So, and where people are really become infected by or impacted by this is like people who have compromised immune systems, like people who have cancer are going to be undergoing chemotherapy. They're naturally suppressed immune system because they're on chemotherapy, and they're suppressing that immune system so they can fight off the cancer. So if you're a young person undergoing chemo, yeah, you're open to that infection. If you're a young person who has some type of maybe, lung disease, you're open to that infection. And maybe, and this is where the social distancing come into play. So maybe that guy saying it as a joke, right? That's funny, but maybe you get it and you're cool because you do have a good immune system. What happens to give it to your mom, your grandma, or your aunt, right? Yeah. Or your cousin with asthma? They didn't make that choice. You made that choice, and now they feel the impacts from it. So it's not like we can't act like we're our own island at this point. What we're doing is we're all connected, and what's connecting us is this thing that's just trying to, propagate or live throughout all of us. Mm-hmm. And until we all take responsibility, it's going to continue to just keep burning through the people.
Yeah, it's going to continue to spread. And also, can a recovered person, like a person who had the coronavirus, be reinfected with it? Or will they have immunity?
They will have immunity to the one that infected them. But it doesn't mean the virus doesn't change. Like I just told you, viruses, there's hundreds and thousands of them, mm-hmm. Flus. So this coronavirus can change. And now that person can be infected by the new virus. Because if we develop drugs that try and prevent infection, that virus will find its way around. And now that person who was immune will become infected by that new virus. And the good thing is like, okay, it's similar. Your body can adjust to it faster. Your immune system will say, I've seen something like this. I can tailor something different. But you can become infected over and over and over again as long as the virus keeps changing, because viruses are made to evolve fast, because most of them die, but that one that lives is now new and now gets around our defense systems, our immune system, and also gets around the drugs. So you can become immune, but it doesn't mean it's permanent. It'll come back because viruses naturally evolve. That's what they do.
They adapt to different environments.
That's what they do. It's like a race. Who can, evolve the fastest? And the virus that does is the one that propagates in all of us. And now that one will eventually evolve again. And then now they produce all these progeny, these different, evolutionary strains. They, cause all kinds of different problems.
Mm-hmm. And are the precautions we're taking as of right now, do you think it is effective, or should it be more stricter laws in place?
You were breaking up. I couldn't hear you. My bad.
Oh, sorry. Are the precautions we're taking as a society right now with social distancing and, staying inside, is that enough to stop the virus, or should it be more stricter laws in place?
That's a slippery slope though, right? So we're doing what we can. And as long as we all adhere to, personal responsibility, we should be okay. because then we kind of drag it out over months instead of weeks, and then we should be able to, treat the people, better understand it, develop vaccines, more importantly, treat the direct things that are impacting our lungs. So what we're doing right now should be enough, but there's always more. And when I say more, the things that we should be doing are more not people, but scientists, the government, and people with capabilities to do research. So what there should be is a push to better understand the disease. And then, that's epidemiologists, that's research scientists, that's policy people. And what they shouldn't be doing is, wasting any time and deciding whether it's a serious threat or not. Mm-hmm. What you always do as a scientist, and it is what it is how we do it, right? I always tell students, anticipate the worst, but hope for the best.
Yeah.
Because that's the way science works. So we should do the same thing. We should anticipate the worst, but hope for the best. And if we anticipate the worst, then we're pushing the timelines, we're better understanding, we're not bickering over dumb things, and we're trying to understand the problem so that as we do stretch it out over months, then when if a wave does happen because we let people back out, then we're better prepared. Mm-hmm. So people are doing what they should right now, and that's stay home. The people that aren't you can't make people do things. That's that slippery slope. Yeah. We can't, this is a democracy. Mm-hmm. We have our rights. And so you can literally go do what you want to do. But we're all connected right now. And if you think that what you do doesn't impact somebody else, then that's just being selfish. And those people should maybe think about what they're doing. There should be no denial. There shouldn't be no, conspiracy theories. There should be anything but the hard facts. And the hard facts that are people are dying. We're not understanding what's happening. So what we should all do is just proceed with caution and try and learn more before we really do anything.
Yeah, I think that's well said. People should listen to what the CDC is saying and keep up with the news as well. And you were talking about a vaccine. Do you know when, if that's in development and when it'll be released approximately?
It should be in development. It's an RNA virus. We've dealt with these types of viruses before. This isn't something uncommon. Like I said, the only thing that makes it uncommon is it's attacking a different area. So a vaccine, but this is why I tell students again, expect the worst, but hope for the best. Science is trial and error. And so developing a vaccine is trying different things, different targets, a better interaction, a better effect. But first, the way it starts is we started with it in a test tube version. And then we scale it up to, okay, how does it impact an animal like a mouse? And then from there, we can go to people. And then from there, once it's not impacted people, now it's ready for release to other people. So it's a process, and the process takes a long time, and it's good because it's cautious. You don't want to make something this is an example, right? You don't want to make something that cures, one disease but causes another. We did that one time, as a scientific community. Mm-hmm. There was an immune disease that was, killing children. They call it, the bubble disease, where kids had to live in a bubble. Mm-hmm. And it was traced to a chromosome, and they fixed that chromosome by using gene therapy. And the majority of the kids could live normal after that. But 2 of those 11 kids, they gave them leukemia. So that's the thing. We can fix one thing, but then cause another problem. So it's a slow and steady process, so we don't cause more damage. So even if we are on the right track, it takes months and months and months, because you have to ensure that there's no off-target effects, and the things that we're giving aren't going to cause more problems than the original virus. So it's a slow-moving ship, right? We do in the lab is very laborious and very time-consuming, and it's only moving it by an inch, and it's only moving it by an inch. So I can't even give you a timeline, but it definitely will take months, if not, over a year, for sure.
Yeah, because there are a lot of clinical trials that need to be taking place. I know I took biology, and there's different phases, phase 1 through 4 that the FDA has to approve different vaccines from. So it's going to take a while.
There's 4 phases, and it each has to be finished before the next one starts, because we don't want to be going down a rabbit hole. We got to make sure, are we crossing, the T's and dotting the I's? Because we're not doing that. That's where we're wasting our time, right? It shouldn't be about people getting the accolades or who solved the problem. It's about, chasing the right things, but doing it in a rational approach.
Yeah, helping people, saving lives. And that's all for this episode. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later.